Welcome to the November 20th, 2023 regular business board meeting of the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. This meeting is being live streamed and video recorded with sound for public broadcast. All participants joining via the webinar will need to use the chat feature, which will be enabled during audience recognition. If you are attending this meeting in person, you should be aware that other attendees may be recording this meeting as permitted by the Sunshine Act. This means, however, that any remarks you make, even those made at your seat, may be recorded by other members of the public during the meeting. The board believes it's in its best interest and the best interest of the students of the district to hear comments from district residents. An opportunity will be given later in the meeting for public comment, both in person and through the chat feature, which will be read by our solicitor. The board strives to be respectful to all individuals making public comment and does not wish to limit any taxpayer or resident's right to free expression while making their public comment during the public comment period. However, please be aware that intentionally disrupting a school board meeting is inappropriate. So welcome everyone to our meeting tonight, and we will start with Dr. Yanni's superintendent update.
Thank you very much. Before I give my formal report this evening, this is the last public regular board meeting for several of our board members. And so we want to take just a few minutes to recognize them. Although I've only been in the district for 3 months, I can tell you that I'm grateful for the support and encouragement of our board members. And I think we have a few words about each of you that'll be spoken by some of your board colleagues. So I was given a script.
You're doing great.
So I'm going to turn it over to my right.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to the public for your time this evening. We wanted to take a moment to just individually thank and give a few words about each of our colleagues who are transitioning to other ways to spend their volunteer hours. And to start, I want to talk a little bit about Sean Mooring. So he came back and joined us for the evening. Here he is in the front row. For all of us who have the pleasure of knowing Sean, it's his determination, soft-spoken nature, and the way in which he takes collaboration and coalition building to heart through his work in our district, in our community, and all across our area with his students, with his own students, with other people's students. There is hardly a person that's met Sean that doesn't sing his praises about how he brought them into the work and inspired them to do more. Since joining the board, I've had the honor to learn from him and with him and have a few jokes and discussions on the side. But our community is eternally grateful for all of the work that you've done and how you inspired others to continue to serve and think about getting into the work on behalf of students. Thank you, Sean. We were sad to see Sean go. And also through that, we had the gift of getting to know David for a brief time, serving directly on our board, while others in our community have had the pleasure of getting to know David much sooner in his tenure and the great work he did for our board previously. It's really been a pleasure over the last few months. David jumped right in. I quickly learned what a Phillies fan he was, sitting next to him at our board meetings and bringing me into all the scores and everything throughout the season. But just like a true athlete or Phillies fan, he jumped right in, was all hands on deck, and took his position seriously, which we really appreciated with Sean's quick departure, having someone that was able to share in the work, bring helpful insight and valuable leadership in his time here. So thank you for your service now and previously, and we look forward to staying in touch and learning and leading with both of you. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague Shayna.
Apologies if this takes me a second. My Wi-Fi isn't working, so I get my handwritten notes. I get to talk about my dear friend Suba. I first met Suba 5 years ago when I decided to run for school board. She played the role I just reprised, the only tenured board member seeking re-election with a slate of new faces. I know now what a great role model you proved to be in that. Suba, your calm and focused approach to this job is one I work to emulate. I know that I will miss your measured approach, and it made you a bit of a barometer for me. If you were upset about something, then I knew that my assessment to be upset, or if it was good, I knew if we were on the same wavelength, then my assessment was probably a good one of the situation. You bring with you over a decade of institutional knowledge and expertise. I, for one, hope you don't go too far, as your understanding of LMSD and board history are invaluable as we plan for the long term and react in the short. My favorite part of having you as a colleague is your insightful questions. You frequently manage to ask questions no one else on the board would even think to ask, often setting up a discussion that would not have otherwise happened. Beyond all that, you've proven to be a great friend. I will cherish those rare glimpses into your wicked sense of humor that we get on occasion. I'm glad to call you a friend. I'm sad to no longer be able to call you a colleague, but I think I speak for myself, the board, and the community when we say how grateful we are for the work you've put in for 12 long years. And I hope you enjoy your time when you don't have to spend your Monday nights with us. Miss you, though we will.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk about Peter. I am not as eloquent a speaker as the first two, but I would have to say that I couldn't have wished for a better co-chair. Peter let me come on to facilities and purchasing, and, well, I don't know, I think nobody else wanted to go on to facilities and purchasing. And turns out we both are people that like this subject, so, and I enjoyed all our conversations and talking more in-depthly, and then how he let me take that time to get comfortable with being in this seat and running the meetings, and so I just continued to do the big, long notes. I don't know who was benefiting more with the size of our notes for this, but I always appreciated Peter's insight when something was, you kind of be looking at, I'm not really seeing this, and he would be narrow right into what I could sense, but he could see. And I appreciate his love of data, and because I do love data too, and I hope I can become as good at catching that stuff that you do. And overall, I appreciate all the wisdom and all the insights that you have shared with me and helped me along the way, and that and I hope that the next person who will be my co-chair is as good as you, but they've got big shoes to fill. Well, thank you so much, Peter.
Okay, well, my person is Lucy. I am grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Lucy. She's a phenomenal human being. I'm going to be very succinct with my comments. You know, I would say for Lucy, stay calm and carry on and always show grace. Thank you.
Oh, we're not done yet. So when we walk into this building, and it's one of my favorite things about Lower Merion, we see etched on the stone, enter to learn and leave to serve. This value that years ago was put on our public schools and at our administration building is something that U5 has shown us every single day that you've worked with us. I wanted to take this moment and express to ourselves, to our new board members, to our community, both on-site and online, and the school team that knows this really well. You have collectively given 28 years of service to this community. That is unbelievable. And you have been the pillar of strength in a time unlike any before. You made it through COVID on this school board, and that is something that we should all honor, but we all should be blown away by your grace through that and your passion to really succeed. And what you always taught us is to put our students first, and we saw that in everything you did. So please, for this moment of gratitude, heartfelt gratitude, could you all please stand? Them. Sorry, just them. them, just the 5. Sorry, just you guys. Because it wouldn't be the case if I didn't do a historical nerd alert, so I'm gonna do it just mostly for Anna's sake, but for you all. Coretta Scott King once said, "The greatness of our community is most accurately," and of course I have a pop-up right when this happens, "most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of our members." When she was speaking about that, she was speaking about amazing people that have moved mountains, and we believe that you have done that for our community. So we thank you for your service. We thank you for your unwavering commitment to our students, to our schools, and to our families. And we can't believe the powerful contributions you have made. That is a legacy that we will continue to live on with for years to come. Thank you all so much. Now you can clap.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I want to thank the board for allowing me the privilege to serve on this board again. I'm so impressed with the spirit of this board. In fact, the very policies that are so very important in our schools and for our students are similarly important for this board. On this board, just in the few months I've been here, you can sense there's a spirit of cooperation, inclusivity, a sense of belonging, and importantly, there's a spirit of civility toward each other, the administration, the teachers, and the public. And there's no question in my mind that it is these very qualities that has enabled this board to accomplish so much, and we're going to hear about it later tonight. Finally, I want to say one thing about Dr. Yanni. Dr. Yanni said something at last Monday's meeting that was just awesome to hear. He emphasized that he and the administration are here to serve the principals and the teachers, not the other way around. So simple yet so profound. We hire the best teachers and the principals that we can find. Let's do everything we can to support them, then get out of their way so they can do the jobs we hire them to do. I think we're very good hands with Dr. Yanni. Thank you.
Thank you all. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be able to serve. And, you know, it didn't quite pan out the way most of us expected when we were elected right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, but I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And I know that the board is in good hands moving forward. So with that, we will move on with our meeting and invite Dr. Yanni up for his superintendent's report.
Great job.
The joy on his face when he got to leave the board meeting. I have a couple things to share this evening as part of my superintendent's report. Moving forward, starting this month, I will have something in my superintendent's report called High Five, Good News from Across the District. If you go to our district website, under News and Announcements, there are any number of news stories, but I just wanted to highlight just 5. And not that these are the most important, but just to give you a flavor of some of the things that are happening around the district. In that first photo there, it's 2 of our youngest students from Penn Valley. Penn Valley's families and students celebrated their Cultural Heritage Night. The Lower Merion Unified Track and Field participated in the Fall Festival Torch Run to kick off Special Olympics. And so we had some of our students carrying the torch down Montgomery Avenue, which was great to see. Also, our students at Lower Merion High School participated in an author study with a few reputable authors, and it was great to see kids in our buildings connecting with experts in their field, and it was a great event. Students at Welsh Valley did some work to honor veterans around Veterans Day, and of course, last week was American Education Week, and that is the week every year that we pause to reflect and thank everyone that has a part in educating our students. One of the things we talk about here in the district is this idea of one team, that despite title or position, we're all here ultimately for our kids. I want to highlight a couple big things that are coming up. You see on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a funnel, and there's three big buckets, or there's three big things that are going to go through our funnel for the remainder of this year that will bring us on the other side to LMSD 24-25. The first thing is continued planning for universal full-day kindergarten. This evening, you're going to hear from the Montgomery County Planning Commission on our enrollment projections, and I anticipate bringing a recommendation for universal full-day kindergarten starting in the fall to the December board meeting. There will be trade-offs when we think about full-day kindergarten because we know we can't fund the entire implementation of full-day kindergarten solely through new positions in our district. So over the next couple of months, we're going to have to think about how we operate and do some things differently, but we're going to remain nimble and agile so that we can move forward with universal full-day kindergarten. There's also healthy start times that are going to start for next year. That's going to impact not only transportation schedules, but also our school schedules. And then that last disc that's a little bit hard to see is arguably the most important because it's the backbone of everything we do. It's finances. So we have contract negotiations coming up, and we also have the expiration of the ESSER dollars, or stimulus funding, that we've had as a result of COVID. All of that money goes away. So when you think of these three things, the universal full-day kindergarten, the healthy start times, and also finances, the shifts that are noted there, each one of those shifts is seismic. I'm not worried about having all of these seismic shifts happening at the same time because I believe in our leadership team and the collective efficacy of our board and our staff to move forward with planning to make sure that we're successful, not just next year, but into the future. And then to draw your attention to some of the things on this evening's agenda, I mentioned that we are going to have the presentation from the Planning Commission. They're going to talk about their assumptions for our enrollment moving forward. There's an Arnold Field stipulation on tonight's agenda. We've done some considerable work as a result of our collaboration with the Wynwood Civic Association, putting some landscaping over there for the eventual lights on Arnold Field. So we're excited to have this next step of that process come forward. And I really want to thank Mr. Lee for his ongoing collaboration with the Wynwood Civic Association. We wouldn't have gotten to this point if it wasn't for his hard work. We also have the Polo Field agreement tonight for our student athletes at Black Rock. So we thank Mrs. Klein for her work. I know that since I've been here, we've had multiple meetings where we're talking about field usage, and it's nice to see both of these field matters come to a point where we're actually seeing action happening. And then there's also scholarship on the agenda this evening. As we think about safety and security, students at Lower Merion High School, the physicality of the building is such, we're right on a main thoroughfare, and we also have kids traversing the high school and the DAO. So there's a system on the agenda tonight that's going to complement our safety and security measures called scholarship. I'm really thankful for the work that Dr. Johnson has done with his team to ensure that we're constantly looking at the safety of our students. And also thank you to Ms. Schaefer and the safety team that's constantly keeping all of these things at the forefront of what we're doing. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Yanni. Give Ms. LaPera a moment to.
Thank you.
We're going to do a quick switch, I'm sorry, Ms. LaPera, to the order of the agenda and offer our students the opportunity to do their reports prior to the presentation so that should they have schoolwork, hopefully not so much on the week of Thanksgiving, but yeah. So Ms. Simmons, if you want to go first for Harriton.
Good evening, everyone. The month of November was a busy one for Harriton. Harriton Theater Company performed The Importance of Being Earnest this past weekend. Harriton's Triumph Music Honor Society inducted 11 new musicians this year. Harriton's National Honor Society did their annual Thanksgiving food drive, raising over $3,000 and filling 7 pallets of non-perishables for families in need. Harriton's Environmental Club is hosting a fundraiser at Snap Pizza tonight for their composting efforts around the school. In Harriton Athletics, senior Nico Leedy was named Mainline Boys Athlete of the Week. Jack Ufberg and Charlie Nenchev respectively signed national letters of intent for their colleges and universities. And looking forward, those in integrated math 2 and 2H will take the Keystones on December 5th and 6th. Those in the IB program will go on their annual New York trip to visit the UN and watch a musical. And on December 7th, band and orchestra will have their winter concert. And on December 14th, choir and jazz ensemble will have their winter concert. As always, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Ms. Miazza?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off by sharing that on November 13th, Lower Merion had its first Wellness Day for this year. The day holds significance as it marks the day that Mr. Hughes, our former principal, passed away in 2021. Mr. Hughes was known to always prioritize character and is remembered for his motto, "Character counts." A Wellness Day where LM students are kind to ourselves symbolizes how he valued kindness as a way of life, which has resonated within Lower Merion's community for 16 years and will continue to live strong. Moving on to some of the recent events that have taken place in Lower Merion. Lower Merion's first ever food truck festival was held on October 28th and turned out to be a blast, filled with several food trucks and desserts as well as entertaining games. The pep rally took place on Friday, November 3rd, where students got to leave school early to watch the seniors, teachers, and club teams perform their dances on the field. LM sure do have the moves. Radnor Week was a huge success run by student council who made posters, came up with the spirit days, and sold a bunch of Beat Radnor shirts and hoodies in preparation for the big game, as well as a canned food drive to benefit the Ardmore Food Pantry. Homecoming, which took place on November 4th, was a great night filled with music, dancing, singing, and a ton of moshing. In preparation for the winter sports season, the athlete meeting was held in the auditorium on November 9th as a kickoff to the season. Build on Pie sales sold a whopping 430 pies, raising over $3,000 for the Sean Hughes Memorial Garden. The Lower Merion 2023 blood drive was held on November 16th, and Lower Merion's players performed a production of Little Shop of Horrors from November 17th to the 19th after months of their hard work, time, and effort. Now, to show off some of our successes, we have a lot of firsts to celebrate. Lower Merion had held the Water Polo NIT Fall Tournament on October 21st. The girls won their first ever game as a team. Followed by that, the boys ended their season with a win against Central York. The Lower Merion football team made history on November 4th as they beat Radnor 56-12 for the first time in 12 years. The boys soccer team made it all the way to playbacks with the state so close where their season sadly came to an end. Girls soccer made it to states for the first time ever where they advanced to quarterfinals. The girls volleyball team won their league and made it to district quarterfinals. Sophomore golf player CG Sacco had an amazing performance as he came in 4th place at states, which took place at Penn State. The boys ultimate team dominated at the Pennsbury Fall Brawl Tournament and won all of their games. Boys cross country exceeded all expectations with the best finish in LM history, coming 5th in states. Well done, Aces, and congratulations to all of our fall sports for their outstanding performances this season. Now, on to some upcoming exciting events. Today marks the first day of practice for all our winter sports. The Lower Merion Model UN team is having a holiday cookie dough sale starting today, November 20th, to December 1st. Aces hockey team play their rival game tomorrow, November 21st, against Harriton at the Haverford Stadium. Let's show out and support them. Maroon Madness is coming up on November 29th, which is a charity event hosted by our philanthropy committee that raises money for the Sean Hughes Children's Trust. On November 28th, Lower Merion and Harriton invite everyone to go watch a documentary called Screenagers, which will be showing at Harriton. This documentary is about the addiction to cell phones in the school environment and helping students achieve resilience. Last but not least, Build On is in need of volunteers for the Dickens Festival, which is coming up on December 3rd. This festival is a great community holiday event in Narberth where we hand out hot cocoa and assist in the event running smoothly. This week is Thanksgiving, And on behalf of the student body, I want to say that we are thankful for our school district teachers, administrators, staff, and all community members for everything you do to add to our experiences and successes at LM. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you both so very much.
As we move into our presentation tonight, we do have a representative from the Montgomery County Planning Commission. As she makes her way to the podium, I'll just say, one of the things that we sought approval for was to do an updated enrollment study, particularly because we saw some anomalies in our enrollment this year. Low numbers in kindergarten at Marion, high numbers in first grade at Kenwood, and a couple other spots that concerned us. And we wanted to make sure that as we plan moving forward, we have the best data possible. So I'll let our guest introduce herself and then talk about the enrollment projections.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Yanni. My name's Ann Levitt-Gruberger. I am the section manager for the county planning section at Montgomery County Planning Commission. We're pleased to be able to come back and do an update to the enrollment study that we've done previously for the school district. I'll start with the history of findings from our prior studies. This chart that's on the left shows the beginning of our study in 2014 to 2015 school year, and the large amount of predicted growth that we thought the district was going to see then over the following 10 years. And I think that the district has mostly seen that. But you can see in this chart that the rate of growth that we're seeing in these 10-year increments has really slowed. But there is going to be more growth here in the district, and I think that it's important to note that the district is going to continue to attract new students because it is a popular district and has a great reputation, and all of the other factors that we look at that contribute to this, the home sales, students enrolling and moving here from other districts, people choosing public school over private school, and new construction here, it all makes for a really wonderful place to go to school. Here is a summary of district enrollment by grade levels. What you don't see prior to the 2014 to 2015 school year on here is the growth in the elementary school enrollment. That pretty much peaked in the 2014, 2015 school years. But what you can see after that in the red line going forward is the growth in the middle school enrollment that the elementary school students were aging into those middle school years. And as that has dropped, more recently, you can see the increase in high school enrollment. It's just the progression of things going forward. High school enrollment continues to slow though, and I think that we can say pretty safely that elementary and middle school enrollment at the moment is fairly steady. Private school enrollment is another factor that we look at in doing these enrollment projections. We look at two different sources of data for this. We look at the census data that provides us with 5-year averages on private school enrollment, most recently in the 2017 to 2021 years, where there were about 4,600 private school students residing in the district. Those numbers have decreased over time, but you can see if you look at the school district's records where they track the number of students that are being bused by the district to area private schools, that those numbers have gone up. I think that is a leftover effect of the pandemic that you were all just talking about. The difficulties in parents needing to find places for their students to go to school when instruction shifted elsewhere. We also look at housing impacts and the school-age children by housing type. This is something that we studied after the 2010 census, and we're in the middle of updating these factors where we look at the number of school children that we can anticipate coming out of different types of housing units. Single-family detached homes tend to have the most number of school children per housing unit, followed by single-family attached units and then multifamily units. We are in the middle of updating these numbers, but we are not quite done with our analysis and hope to be able to use updated factors going forward. That being said, we also look at the data that the school district is able to provide us in that we take the school roster data and compare it to the addresses of multifamily developments in Lower Merion and Narberth. So we're able to look at actual numbers of school children coming out of newly constructed units. That's the chart on the right-hand side. Those numbers they vary because we're looking at multifamily developments of different sizes, but generally speaking, those numbers tend to stay between 0 and 0.2 students per multifamily unit. We also look at those numbers overall, all of the multifamily units in the district, and those numbers have gone up. There's certainly been multifamily construction taking place over the last couple of years, with more to come. But those numbers have stayed fairly steady at about 0.08 students per unit. We also look at housing sales. Generally speaking, housing unit sales tend to result with a positive net change of students coming from those sales within the district. But it's important to note that even at times when sales decrease, so for example, in 2022, this number of sales in the district did go down. Interest rates have gone up, so there has been a slowdown in sales activity, but that number of new students coming into the district is still staying at a pretty strong rate. New housing units continue to get built here. That's something that the Montgomery County Planning Commission tracks pretty closely. In general, single-family detached and attached homes have continued to be built at close to recent trend levels. The real growth is in multifamily development here in the district, and that's a trend that we expect to continue. This is a map showing where housing units have been built over the last 5 years. These numbers are calculated as part of the overall trend that we see here in the district. Housing construction continues to be strong, as well as potential development. So here on this map, the callouts in green are the developments that we anticipate happening in the relatively near future. The callouts in yellow are ones that are less certain, but we tally these and look at what elementary school catchments they would feed into, and look at that and try to come up with a housing adjustment where we look at number of total units that we anticipate being built and those multipliers that we were just talking about. We use those to try to anticipate how many total students that we would see enrolling in the district and the various elementary schools based on the number of units we think will be built each year. And that chart at the bottom is a calculation of the total public school children that we would see coming from these units being built, minus the trend that is otherwise existing over those past 5 years of actual housing construction, to come up with an annual number of students that we anticipate impacting enrollment here at the district. That brings me to the cohort progression model that we use to try to anticipate the ratio of students moving forward. The pandemic and the enrollment changes that we saw here make the 2 school years that we have grayed out in this chart. We've excluded them from our calculations because the enrollment trends each of those years are they're too uncertain. So what we've done is we've made a 4-year average of the 2018 to 2020 school years and the 22 to 24 school years, and use that average to try to determine what we think the enrollment will be going forward. We also estimate future birth rates with an average of the past 6 years of births to anticipate what we think the birth rate will be past what data we already have in hand. So if the school district is to continue with half-day kindergarten, which is what it has now, right now the actual total enrollment for the district is 8,495 students. When we look at all of those potential factors for growth, we come up with a small total change over the next 10 years of 188 students. This is pretty close to what we used for our calculations in last year enrollment study that we did. By school level, we see growth again, mostly at the elementary and middle school levels, with about 141 students, positive gain over the next 10 years at elementary school, and 115 students gained at the middle school level. High school level cannot grow forever, so that growth that we saw in the graph previously that was showing larger high school sizes based on the growth in the elementary and middle schools previously, will drop a little bit as those smaller class sizes move into the high school. Results by elementary school are a little bit less certain when we start looking at things at an individual school building level, but we see the potential for the most growth at Penn Valley Elementary School and other variations in enrollment at Belmont Hills and Kinwood and so on. At the middle and high schools, again, we do anticipate seeing some growth in the future at the middle school level, but just some, and some drops in enrollment potentially at Lower Merion High School and a small increase at Harriton High School. I will say that because we use estimates for the second 5 years in these projection studies, that those numbers are somewhat less certain than the first 5 years in the study that we calculate on actual birth data. Moving on to discuss full-day kindergarten for a moment. This is something that the district asked us to consider as you consider moving to a full-day kindergarten model in the future. What we've done here is we've taken a look at some other nearby school districts that have recently gone to full-day kindergarten. We looked at these last year as well. The only new addition that we have here is Garnet Valley, which moved to a full-day kindergarten model in the 22 to 23 school year. What we've done is we look at the enrollment in kindergarten prior to implementing full-day kindergarten, and then again after kindergarten has been implemented with full day. And again, look at first grade enrollment before and after, with the expectation that there will be an increase in kindergarten enrollment with a full day of kindergarten and a decrease in first grade enrollment for students who are enrolling in the school district for the first time at first grade. So what we have here is that we anticipate that more students would come to Lower Merion School District for the first time in kindergarten, with still an extra bump in enrollment in first grade, but the growth overall would increase. So what we said before, that there would be 188 more students at the end of that 10-year enrollment study, we would increase that to an additional 600 students if the school district were to move to a full-day kindergarten model. So in conclusion, we do anticipate that growth will continue overall, primarily at the elementary and middle school levels. Multifamily construction here in the district will continue to provide new students who will enroll here. If the school district is to continue with half-day kindergarten, that we anticipate the district would grow by another 188 students over the next 10 years, that the elementary and middle schools would grow slightly, and that the high schools would decrease in enrollment. And again, if there would be full-day kindergarten, that total enrollment increase would be about 600 students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to, I appreciate the time and effort that's gone into the presentation, and wanted to open it up to the board if there were any questions. Ms. Kalish?
Thank you. Pardon me. So could you go over for everybody who's watching this now, what you believe at MCPC is the what accounts for the difference between that 188 number and the 600 number, like what that extra 400-ish students, where they come from?
Sure. So, it is a little bit of math and a little bit of an educated guess, but it's our assumption that from looking at, I'll go back in the slides a little bit here. When we looked at these other school districts, we looked at the enrollment before and after the full-day kindergarten was implemented. And then we have to assume that there will be families out there who need that full-day kindergarten and are seeking it elsewhere because they need a full day of care or education or what have you. And that those parents will make a choice to come to Lower Merion Public Schools for kindergarten when they might not have otherwise if that full day of kindergarten is implemented. So it's hard to say that it's going to be a one-to-one switch. Would they have enrolled elsewhere for private school and then stayed in private school? And you've lost that student forever. But we do anticipate that there will be more students that come to enroll in kindergarten and then continue throughout the public school system for the duration of their educational career. And that's what we anticipate that extra growth coming from.
Okay. And so could you go back to the slide that had all the numbers on it
For full day kindergarten or half day?
for that one?
Okay.
So we said earlier that our top enrollment was in 2019, correct? And that our
Yes.
number was, I'm sorry, I forget exactly what the number was, 8,800?
Yeah.
8,800. So if we're looking at that, that doesn't, like, for me, I know, I'm only bringing this up because I know when I first looked at these numbers and I was like, oh my goodness, that feels like a big increase. But looking at it with that lens helped me to realize that we went up, 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 and then we went big down. So now we're just kind of, even with this added increase, even if we did do full day kindergarten, that would just be kind of putting us back to the position closer to where we were and before we had another middle school building. So it was, putting that in context just made it a little less daunting for me as we're thinking about it.
Yeah, you were already there. The school district was at 8,800 students as of the 2019 to 2020 school year. So you had those higher numbers already. Probably feels like a distant memory at this point, but
Everything before COVID feels like a distant memory.
Ms. Sauter? This is really a question for him, I believe, so I apologize, but it's off your data, so it'll be helpful, can't leave yet. When we look at that number and we see that 600 students, we're spreading them out over multiple buildings and over 12 years. What is do you have a concern about placing 600 students? Will we hit a capacity issue with full-day kindergarten over 10 years? It's a 10-year study.
There may be some instances where we start to hit capacity in buildings. If that's the case, we'll talk about partner schooling. But I think as we continue to look at space and continue to make some refinements in buildings to accommodate students, I'm less worried about that. The biggest, aftershock of that would be some level of partner schooling.
Got it. So moving forward with full-day kindergarten, these numbers don't concern you?
No.
Thank you.
I think this is less of a question, just an observation. I just wanted to note, based on these numbers, again, on this, looking most primarily at the high school level, I know that there's a lot of concern that right now our Lower Merion High School is quite large. And I just wanted to note that over time, like right now, our high school classes are especially at Lower Merion, are quite big, but as the 12th grade graduates and the 8th grade comes in, the 8th grade class is considerably smaller than the 12th grade class that's leaving. So I just wanted to note that because that is a concern that I think a lot of us have around Lower Merion being quite big. And just note that delta between the two schools through this process looks like it is getting smaller. And also that crowding at Lower Merion will hopefully also continue to decrease.
The other thing, as we look at enrollment projections, so this is not an exact science, right? So we look at how things trend every year. When you look at the numbers, there's the immediate 5 years and then there's the extended 5 years. The immediate 5-year data is far more reliable. It becomes less reliable once, we get out beyond that 5th year. I would even say, once we're out beyond 3 years, I start to get a little, I'm less inclined to take those numbers really at face value. So constantly looking. We know what they call the survival ratio or the survival quotient is from grade level to grade level. So we'll be able to calculate that and when we do annual updates for the board.
So I just wanted to add one more thing that when I started talking about full-day kindergarten, when I first ran for this years ago, I got told no at every turn. And so I wanted to thank my colleagues, and I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank the administration and the community for all the work that's gone into trying to make this universal full-day kindergarten initiative a real possibility and probability for our district. I promise not to cry again like the last time we voted on full-day kindergarten, and it's just, this looks very promising to me, and when we make this happen, it's going to have a real meaningful impact to a lot of families in our community. So I just wanted to commend and thank everyone for their hard work.
Ms. Shrek?
Oh, yes, thank you. So I guess I just wanted to make sure I understood what you said at the top, Dr. Yanni. So the inputs, I know we were waiting on this study, and then you talked about the inputs for next fall, and based on that, you were making a proposal to move forward with full-day kindergarten taking effect at the start of next fall at our next board meeting. Is that right? I just want to make sure I got that.
Right. Barring something unforeseen between now and our meeting in December, that will be the recommendation moving forward.
Thanks.
And I just want to note that by next board meeting, that is the next full board meeting, which would be on December 18th, I believe. The next technical board meeting is on December 4th, which is the reorganization. So I just wanted to clarify that it is the 18th.
Thanks. Yeah, I was situating the dates and making sure I understood. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Board? Thank you very much for your time and for your work on this. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So we will move on to the next part of our meeting, which are the committee meeting reports. First on that list is the October 25th Equity and Anti-Racism meeting.
Okay, I am up. Okay. And Shawana, there you are. Okay, good, because I'll be tossing it over to you in a second, as these committee meetings are a team effort between the board and the leadership of the school district. So one thing that came up in our committee meeting that I thought was really important and that I would share out with everybody is a community member asked, what's the difference between all the different meetings that surround our district around equity and race and inclusive practices? I thought it was a really valuable thing to bring up. Shawana really did an amazing job kind of spelling out what the goal of the equity committee is. But I just wanted to kind of read out the standards to everybody about what a school board committee meeting is. So a school board committee meeting, the board members are there to discuss with the district leadership and propose, we are there to discuss and propose initiative, set track of achievable goals and watch how those goals are measured. We hear from members and experts in the field and the public to express their concerns. And we also make official recommendations on the committee level that we can bring for final revisions to the board and for policies as well. And the board is who votes on these pieces. I think it was really important because we have all these different meetings and sometimes parents and community members aren't sure where to balance their time. So we really wanted to kind of identify that and then dove into the content. And I will give Ms. Shawana James Coles a huge amount of credit to setting us off in this year in a really strong way of spelling out what are our goals of our meeting and how are we moving forward on that. And also planning a few upcoming meetings where we'll have experts coming in from the outside. I'm super psyched about that because I love to learn. Real quick, we went over negativity bias, it is a fantastic Zoom to watch, so I'm just gonna sell it a little hard now. It is one of those ones that it is wonderful to watch and wonderful to engage in. Please check it out, but there's a lot of great conversations on negativity bias, which our brains are hardwired to go towards the negative, and we have to remind ourselves to break those patterns and to look for the positive as well. You can see that in the actions of many of the school leadership here of pointing out the highlights, the students pointing out the highlights of what's going on in their school. It doesn't mean we don't address opportunities for change, but it does mean we also understand that our brains are hardwired to reverberate and repeat the negativity. That is in an equity conversation, because so often conversations around equity focus on a group of students and what they're not achieving instead of looking at what they can do and where they can go. So that's why it's unbelievably important to have these conversations in the equity meeting, but in all of our conversations as well. We had a nice meet and greet with Dr. Yanni, since this was his first full meeting, I believe. Motive integration. So the team is also working, I don't know if you were here at the former board meeting where we spoke with Mr. Wendell and Mr. Michael Holland, who came to the board meeting because they were the two of the first students to integrate Lower Merion school districts. And Amy and Shawanda are making a video so we can commemorate that. And there's nothing I love more than a primary source. And we remember that our people in our community are amazing primary sources and can tell us so much about the history that happened here locally. Again, a very important thing for our students to be connected to national history that happens here locally, because the community revolves around what they do. So really important work. And then we went through really the work of DEIB and the school team setting their goals around professional development and training opportunities. And Shawanda walked us through some major pieces that kicked off the new year and set the teachers on goals for the entire year and a culture of competency around DEIB goals. Last thing that I promised I would share is when the team was sharing all these big ideas, we had a breakout session where community members were answering specific questions about where our opportunities for growth were. We also realized that this is already happening on our website, these great kind of 5-minute wonders of awesome things happening. So if you want to check that out, you can break negativity bias too and check out some great things that are happening in our school district. And that's right on lmsd.org's main page. Just scroll down past all the boxes. It's on the left-hand side on announcements. And this really helps us understand where we want to go, where we want to grow, and then what are the stakes in the ground and the goals that we can plant to get there, and how can we do it together. Shawana, is there anything I missed on that? Cool. And I found my notes. Thank you so much. On to the next committee meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Sotner. Next is the November 1st Curriculum Committee meeting.
Thank you. So I will try to not go too far in depth because we reviewed our PSSA data numbers, which we then went over at the following full board meeting. So just as a recap, we had 3,964 eligible students, and we had 179 opt out, which was 4.5% of our students. This was the first time that we've hit that 95% threshold, and we can share all of our data on testing without penalty. So just the main takeaways, our mathematics achievement scores have increased in all of our grades and have statistically significant increases by grade level in 5, 6, 7, and 8. Science achievement scores increased significantly in 8th grade. The math achievement has rebounded and grown at a more accelerated rate post-pandemic than our ELA scores. The gap with economically disadvantaged students and or African-American students continues to be the largest across all tests, but we need to examine that data as we look at it, as Dr. Sotner was referring to, because we want to eliminate our negativity bias, especially as we look into data and extrapolate that from these numbers. But the district has seen achievement growth in these groups on these tests. But it does continue to be an area of focus. While our ELA achievement scores remain consistent overall, we continue to strive for growth there, and that a real area of growth was our text-dependent analyses across all grades. Planning for improving on areas that we need to improve upon. We want to do that within the MTSS structure. We're going to refocus on PLCs with consistent meeting times and have action-oriented and data-focused goals for student learning, and to get started on instructional rounds with the building administrators. If you want a really full in-depth look at the data, you can go ahead and see our curriculum committee video on the website, or you can go back and see Dr. Yanni's presentation on the same data with a different spin there. Our next meeting of the curriculum committee of the board will be Wednesday morning, December 6th at 8:30 a.m. in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kalish. Ms. Robinson, the November 3rd Policy Committee meeting.
Thank you. The Policy Committee met in this room at 8:30 a.m. on November 3rd. We discussed Policy 004, which was formulation and adoption of policies. We discussed streamlining non-substantive changes as such changes to pronoun usage or job titles. This is proposed for adoption this evening, so no changes since the first reading. Policy in AR 007 was reviewed. The targeted discussion item relates to proposed start times for meetings, but we haven't completely concluded on that. This policy and regulations address the procedures for how the board conducts public meetings. Okay. Including but not limited to advertising, public comment, and agenda structure. Policy 804 was discussed, school days for students, and the largest change in this was to reflect the change in school start time effective September 2024. We discussed, but are bringing back, policy in AR 151, student athletics. The purpose of these revisions were to, actually, I'm back in first reading. Sorry, I'm getting sloppy with my, getting off the board, yeah. So this is a first reading. It will be brought back to the committee, student athletics regarding name, image, and likeness agreements, and also to incorporate some of the changes into extracurricular and co-curricular activities, policy 124. Policy 810 was discussed. Let's see, student transportation, and this was regarding, to comprehensively address the scope of student transportation in Lmsd. The changes to these items reflect a movement of policy content to the administrative regulation. Within the regulation, we've updated language, including adding language that extends the walk zone, provides conditions for receipt of a parking pass, and let's see, institutes a formalized opt-out program for bus transportation, and moves the procedures relative to bus video or audio to AR 705. Then we discussed 705, which is safety and security, which was an update to the policy and AR relating to the movement of the language from 810 to 705. We then discussed 3 administrative regulations, 2 administrative regulations, one regarding non-resident students. This AR addresses residency and provides procedures for verifying residency. The minor proposed change, which is still being discussed, is to allow for re-registration at a grade level as opposed to an entire school year. For example, this would allow the district to re-register students during transition years such as 4th to 5th grade and 8th to 9th grade. We then discussed Administrative Regulation 206-4, and the purpose was to refer to partner schooling. The recommended adjustment is to allow partner schooling at levels other than just elementary school. The next Policy Committee meeting will be December 8th, and I won't be there.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. And our final committee report is the Facilities and Purchasing Meeting Report from November 16th.
Thank you. Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting met on November 16th to discuss the following items. So we discussed and recommended for approval the items from the purchasing report. First, we reviewed and recommended for approval the list of bills. Then we went to the purchasing report. There were 4 purchases for Starlight, which is an audio-visual vendor for Black Rock Middle School. These were items that were originally in the project plan for Black Rock Middle School, but were broken out, and so the initial budget was reduced, and now these are being added back on. So there's $106,353 for Starlight for the AV updates to the theater, $10,564 for AV updates to the library, $8,713.53 for AV updates to the large gym, and $4,498 for AV updates to the small gym. There was also a need to replace the roof at Gladwin Elementary. It's a large project, so it was bid out as a base bid plus 2 alternates for additional areas of the building. The committee's recommending that we accept the base bid and both alternates to replace the entire roof at once. It's a very large project at $4,387,596.62. We reviewed and recommended for approval a proposal from Lower Merion High School. This is just the high school, not the other schools in the district, to implement a student ID entrance system for the high school and the district administration office to increase the security of the students as they transition back and forth between the 2 buildings. This will also eliminate the need for students to wear visible IDs as they traverse back and forth. Total first-year cost would be $62,429. So this will be used for attendance as they walk into the building and tracking entrance and egress as they move back and forth between the 2 buildings. We reviewed and recommended for approval a proposal to transition some of our advertising and recruiting for careers and jobs away from Indeed and towards a print and online solution from the Inquirer and Monster.com, which is considerably lower in cost, but we think is going to be more effective. Total cost is $9,985.62. We reviewed an amendment to the contract to re-up for the year with Right at School. The Right at School would pay the district a license fee of $72,500 for the 23-24 school year for the right to operate their pre- and post-school program, and also pay total transportation costs of $150,000 for transportation related to their off-site kindergarten program. And the last agenda item was a change order. This was related to the construction of Black Rock Middle School. Gessler Construction will be getting a credit to the district of $11,800 for unused allowances related to site preparation and rock excavation. The next Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting is Thursday, December 14th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And that concludes our committee meeting reports. At this time, we don't have any additional agenda items to add on to our agenda, so we will move on to audience recognition. So at this time, we'll hear public comment. If you would like to speak at tonight's meeting in person and have not yet signed up with Ms. LaPera, please do so now. The sign-up sheet is over near the back of the room. For those of you joining via the webinar, the chat feature will now open and you'll see a 10-minute timer appear on your screen. You can submit your comments and or questions via the chat feature. In either case, both via the chat and in person, please be sure to begin with your full name and where you reside within the district in order for your comment to be shared. And again, this can just be a general neighborhood. It doesn't need to be specific address. So, Ms. LaPera, do we have any in-person comments for tonight's meeting?
Yes, we do. We have Greg Gorton, then Mike Levine, and Ruth Jenkin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Gorton, live in Narberth. And my wife and I have two adult children, both of whom went through the Lower Merion system, Merion School, Kinwood, and then Lower Merion High School. I'm speaking about Oakwell. You've heard a lot about it. A lot of us have spoken. And I am, as I've mentioned once before when I spoke here, the president of the Delaware Valley Ornithological Club, but I'm also interested in flying mammals. So I just want to say a word about the 6 bat species that we have found in and around Oakwell. That's about half of all the mammals at Oakwell, by the way, are bats. So we have land, and you well know we are interested in conserving the trees. Why? Because trees feed and produce insects that live upon them. Insects, in turn, end up being prey for birds and bats. And it's quite remarkable. One bat, one of the bigger bats, may eat 1,000 insects in an hour, may eat thousands of insects in a night, 5,000-6,000 in one night. Some of you may know we are losing insects. It's a worldwide phenomenon. There's a lot of concern about it. And it's due to habitat loss, also use of pesticides. So there's a lot of concern about insects. We've got to have the trees and the plants for those, and a lot of concerns about bats. 2 of the 6 that have been found at Oakwell are state endangered. The little brown bat, which used to be, 10 years ago, just seemed to be all over the place in parks and in your yard at night. But 99% have been killed by the white nose syndrome, a fungal infection. 99%. So that is actually being studied for federal endangered listing, but that's endangered in Pennsylvania. And also the eastern small-footed bat is 90% down in Pennsylvania, and that's endangered, and we're very concerned about that. So all the more reasons to try to conserve that wonderful, wonderful habitat. Just want to say one other thing. 2 days from now, what's happening? The 60th anniversary, right, of John F. Kennedy's assassination. And I remember when I was in 6th grade in Arizona in a public school, washing the dishes in the back of the cafeteria when the principal called us out around the flagpole and asked us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I was reminded of that when we said that before this meeting began. But anyway, just in the spirit of community and patriotism and our wonderful country. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, my microphone's not on.
Good evening. I'm Mike Levine from Narberth. Raised one child that went through the Lmsb. I came here for 3 reasons. Number 1, to thank the outgoing directors for their service to students, faculty, staff, parents, and the community. We know you work hard and don't get paid. You volunteer days and evenings, time away from family, possibly from paying work, from Eagles games. And by the way, they tied Kansas City 7-7 in the second quarter. We deeply appreciate that you've done many good things. I'm not super involved, but I know about healthy start times, full-day kindergarten, and working to secure use of the polo fields for student sports. And you brought in Dr. Yanni. Thank you very much. Reason number 2, to thank Dr. Yanni for being here. He's doing many wonderful things. He cares about the students and community. He brings people together. He looks for the best solution and is innovative. He communicates transparently and exclusively. And most of all, he listens. we support Dr. Yanni. Reason number 3, to report. I'm collecting signatures for a petition to save Oakwell. I have personally collected many signatures of district residents and taxpayers. The people I talk to door, at a community event, or in a commercial area, they hear about the size, beauty, historic significance, and ecological value of Oakwell, as Greg was talking about, and the cost of damaging Oakwell, and they want to preserve it. They hear about the financial costs per field for development and about the maintenance costs. They're shocked and they don't want to pay it. They want to sign the petition, especially the high school students. If I see a group of 6 at Suburban Square or an event, all I say is, this is for Oakwell. And they go, oh, Oakwell. And I get 6 signatures. So outgoing directors, thank you for your service. Dr. Yanni, thank you for being here. We support you. And everybody, let's save Oakwell. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ruth Schenken, Wynwood, PA. I think it was 4 superintendents ago where I discussed the possibility of full-day kindergarten and a pilot program in all of the schools for those students that may need extra help, that we could keep them the full day. Turns out the pilot program did very well. And it's now an integral part of the school system. And hopefully the rest of the students will be able to have the opportunity to join those one class in each school at this point, to join those students and have their experience as full-day students. The other thing, and that's my full-day kindergarten shirt. Now, I'm not taking my clothes off, but I have another shirt that I wear, which is the Ardmore Food Pantry. And I would like to say that the students at Welch Valley have been a wonderful contributor to our effort to feed the hungry in Lower Merion. So my thanks go out to Welch Valley students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
I have other shirts too.
That's all for our in-person comments.
Thank you, Ms. LaPera. Mr. Diazio, can you please read any public comments that were submitted via the chat?
Yes, thank you. There's about 7 or 8 here. So the first one is from Danielle Joyce from Villanova. It says, I'm thrilled to hear the general support for full-day kindergarten implementation for the coming school year. This is a huge step forward in supporting our early learners and families. Thank you for your commitment and congrats to our newest board members. The next comment comes from Allison Barron from Narberth. It says, thank you, Dr. Yanni, and for the presentation on full-day kindergarten enrollment projections. I'm beyond thrilled that Dr. Yanni will recommend approval for implementation for fall 2024 at the next meeting. You listened to our concerns about the prior timeline, and we are grateful. To the board members who have fought hard for this, thank you. The enrollment projections seem to verify that Lower Merion School District can do this. We are confident that the board and the district can make full-day K a reality. It's time for Lower Merion School District to live up to their excellent reputation. I've said it before, our youngest learners deserve a full-day curriculum. I appreciate the board and Dr. Yanni's continued support on this issue. The next comment comes from Greg Peppel from Narberth, and it says, I'm heartened to hear that full-day K will be up for a vote in December. The numbers in the report bear out that full-day K is achievable. It is a matter of commitment, not capacity. Voting to enact full day in 2024 will ensure that we live up to the Lmsb value that learning is a lifelong pursuit. It will benefit single-parent families, dual-income families, and most importantly, ensure our youngest learners aren't falling behind before they even get started. The next comment comes from Isabel Melvin from Wynwood. I applaud the decision to utilize the 17-acre polo field Hold on, I lost my screen there for a second. There you go. I applaud the decision to utilize the 17-acre polo fields in Bryn Mawr. There are many more opportunities. There's a private soccer field next to Black Rock Middle School that sits idle. It's a short, safe 3-minute walk. And Lower Merion School District owns acres of underutilized lawn space that could be retooled for maximum use. For example, Gladwin and Marion Elementary, the Balkenwood Middle School football field, what is that used for currently? That's a question. Welsh Valley has 34 acres. Do you plan to employ the underutilized acres where parking, bathrooms, and bus routes already exist? More fields across the district with no fiscal or environmental expense is something that everyone could get behind. The next comment comes from Richard Lester from Villanova. The data from the county on the growth projections was informative, but curious if we have any data on the accuracy of prior projections versus what really happened. I believe the projections started in 2014. How accurate were those and other projections? The next comment is from Sarah Weisiger from Wynwood. She says, I want to voice my support for implementation of full-day kindergarten in fall of 2023. This will make a huge impact on our family and on the families of so many people who have young children in our district. Thank you for all of the work that the county has done to fully research this implementation, and to the board and the district employees who are working to make it happen. There's a comment from Lisa Prosnitz and Amy Knorr, both from Penn Valley. It says, we'd like to start by expressing our appreciation to Lucy Klein, Peter Lee, Suba Robinson, David Fetterman, and Sean Mooring for the countless hours they have spent in service to our school district as school board directors. Thank you so very much. We are both sorry we cannot be there in person tonight to celebrate the finalization of the new school start times. We are thrilled that Lower Merion School District has worked through its obstacles to help ensure healthy start times for the fall of 2024. We will be sending in a longer letter for the record, noting all of those who have worked tirelessly to help make this happen, but we wanted to take a moment to thank the school board and Dr. Yanni, and especially President Lucy Klein. Moving the high school start time a full hour later will have a significant positive impact on our high school students' physical and mental health and on the safety of our entire community, given the number of young drivers. We look forward to being able to see our collective kids have the opportunity to get more sleep and to working with the district in ensuring that school start times are successful in Lower Merion School District. There was also one additional comment that is in the chat, but the individual didn't list where in the school district they reside, so I won't read that one into the record.
Thank you, thank you very much.
So I'd like to respond to some of the things that were said, and for a bit of levity, it's 9:20. I'll start with fields, and I know you all look at me and think, wow, you're such an athlete. I mean, obviously a Division I athlete. And what I'll say is I'm glad to, that was really funny. I expected more of a laugh. Thank you for that. You know, yeah, what are you saying? I mean, I was a mathlete. And I was on a bowling team. I just want to put it out there. So, you know, we're glad that, you know, we're making some gains with field space. And as I mentioned, a lot of hard work went into that. I think, you know, in the short time that I've been in Lower Merion, multiple people have asked us if we've done certain things like looking at underutilized land. And I hope we can put this to bed. Yes, we've looked at all of those things, you know, so we appreciate the suggestion and know that every available piece of land has been looked at and analyzed, and we'll continue, you know, that work to make sure that we're making maximum use of the space that we have. Regarding the joy and jubilation around full-day kindergarten, I just want to, you know, I don't want to be pessimistic here, but I need everyone to understand that it comes with trade-offs. So I appreciate being lauded tonight. I hope that swords and torches don't come at me when we talk about the trade-offs. Trade-offs like a little bit larger class sizes, maybe some shifting of programs, maybe few less offerings for kids somewhere else. So we're not talking about fundamentally changing our district, but I don't want anyone that's listening to, at home or here, think that, this is all going to be done with new money in the budget. It's going to come with trade-offs. As we move through the winter, we'll be talking about what those trade-offs are. We'll be talking about them transparently so that everyone understands. And as we have to make some trade-offs, we'll work to talk about how we build some of those things back in. So, I know there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of excitement. I just want everyone to remember that there's going to be some give and take with full-day kindergarten. Thank you for the kind comments tonight. It's actually better when people don't like me because the farther you rise, the harder you fall. So that was also a joke, and it's now 9:25, so maybe I'm not, is that right? The higher you rise, the harder you fall? Yeah, okay. So, but, I do thank you for your kind words, but just know that nothing is done singularly here in the district. Everything is a team effort. So it's either, working with the board, working with our administrative team, working with our staff. And so I just want to recognize the many people that are sitting at these tables tonight and people that are at home watching that nothing is ever done in isolation. So I really want to thank everyone for their cooperation and collaboration.
Thank you, Dr. Yanni. And so now we can move ahead with the business part of the business board meeting. We are going to pull two different items out of the consent agenda. Mr. Orlando, can you please read, and I'd like to start with the second one, actually, the stipulation.
So we're doing 12C first, correct? The stipulation, okay. The board approves this, the board authorizes superintendent or designee to execute the stipulation settlement agreement among Lower Merion School District, Lower Merion Zoning Hearing Board, Wynwood Civic Association, Malcolm Davidell, Lower Merion Township, subject to any revisions approved by the superintendent and either the solicitor or special counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando. I'd like to ask if there are any questions or comments from the board.
So this agreement is a long time coming and actually paves the way for us to change the start times. This would is a three-way agreement between the district, the township, and the neighbors around Arnold Field. It's been multiple years in the making, but it both allows the student athletes at Lower Merion here to use that field without and minimize their missing of school in order to do so, but provides the neighbors protections around usage and nuisance. And I wanted to thank, this was Lucy and I have been talking to Andy Gavrin and Ray Courtney for basically 4 years to help problem solve this and the next item that's coming. So I wanted to thank Andy and Ray and Commissioner Bernheim as well as the Wynwood Civic Association and the neighbors around Arnold Field. I think this is going to be a win-win for everyone, and students will benefit. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I just want to add that on this particular issue, Mr. Lee has put in an incredible amount of work, and I think very much his willingness and ability to do so. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Great. Mr. Orlando, could you please read the second item?
Okay. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached land use agreement with Lower Merion Township regarding the use of the Polo Field Recreation Facility.
Thank you. I just wanted to start sort of as a follow-up and a little bit of a reiteration of what Mr. Lee had said. We've spent quite a large amount of time over the past few years working with Commissioners Andy Gavrin and Ray Courtney and Scott Zeloff from Lower Merion, and also Laura Cavender from Haverford Township, and thank them all for their hard work in being able to move this forward and allowing for access to the polo fields for baseball and softball for Black Rock Middle School. Are there any other comments or questions?
Just on, with regard to this agreement as well as on the Arnold Field agreement and work, I just think I want to applaud the board and the township for really working together in a collaborative manner, which really was unheard of before this board. And I think it's kudos to everybody for working hard and realizing that we're on the same side. The township, the board, Haverford, the civic associations all sort of want the same thing, and recognizing we're all humans trying to, live our lives the best we can. And I think when working together collaboratively, civilly, you can accomplish great things. And congratulations to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. I truly believe that the relationship that we've been able to build between the school district and the township has been a really positive move forward, and I am confident that that positive relationship can move forward, continue into the future. Any other comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
We also do 804 separately.
Sure, yes, yep. Okay. Ms. Orlando, could you read?
So this is 13A for adoption, policy 004, formulation, adoption of policies, policy 007, board meetings, and policy 804, school day for students.
I'd like to open up to any comments or questions.
Yeah, 804 really marks the last step in this board's implementation of later and healthier start times for high school. This has been a long time coming, and there are a number of people whose perseverance of really the last 10 years in keeping this important public health issue on the board's radar, when there was simply, for a long time, no significant board or administration interest in moving this initiative forward. Lisa Prosnitz and Amy Noor led the charge over the years, along with a whole cadre of parents, students, and some board members along with them. Longtime former board member Diane de Bonaventura had been advocating this for years. Finally, though, credit has to go to this board and this administration for tackling the many thorny and complex issues that are involved in implementing these start times. Making sure middle school did not start before 8 a.m. and elementary school did not end after 3:45 p.m. was initially thought to be undoable, but they figured it out and made it work. Arnold Field lighting is another part of the complex puzzle that this board resolved. This is a testament to what can be accomplished when parents, board members, and the administration work together for a common purpose for the common good. Congratulations to Lucy, the entire board, and members of the administration who worked tirelessly to make this a reality. I vote yes and would move this board unanimously approve this policy, formally adopting the new school start times as set forth in the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Fetterman, and I want to add an additional shout out to Ms. Schaefer, who really did an incredible amount of work. She's under the previous superintendent, she really stepped up and said this is something we need to start to move forward. And then as the acting superintendent for most of this school year, just did an enormous amount of work. And I do want to give her the credit that is due, that we were able to move this forward. So do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Terrific. Anything else we want to pull out? No, good. Okay, just checking.
It's your last meeting, we got to keep you on your toes.
And I neglected to send the email that said, let me know if anyone wants to pull something out. So that is on me. So do I have a motion to approve the rest of tonight's agenda via consent?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So now, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Terrific. Motion passes. Mr. Diazio, could you please give us a report on the Sunshine Act?
Yes, I can. Give me 1 second. The board met in executive session on November 13th. There were 4 items to discuss during that executive session. One matter involving real estate acquisition, 1 matter of litigation, and 2 matters of threatened litigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So upcoming board meeting dates, which are generally at 8 p.m. here in the District Administration Board Room. Monday, December 4th is the reorganization of the Board of School Directors. Welcome, and I wish the best of luck to the incoming school board. That meeting will begin here at 6:30 p.m. Note an earlier start time here in the boardroom. The next full board meeting will be on Monday, December 18th, here at 8 p.m. Upcoming committee meetings will be held in the boardroom again, generally starting at 8:30 a.m. On November 29th will be the communications meeting, which of course will be 7 p.m. via Zoom. December 6th is Wednesday's curriculum committee. December 8th, Friday, the policy committee. Thursday, December 14th is the facilities and purchasing, and Wednesday, December 20th is the equity and anti-racism committee, and that meeting is at 7 p.m. via Zoom. As always, I'll take my last chance to plug in the ISC Hot Topic tomorrow morning at 9:30, I believe upstairs. On Tuesday, November 28th, as was mentioned earlier, is a screening of Screenagers at 7 p.m. at Harrison High School. And on Sunday, December 3rd at 2 p.m. is the next Ask the Superintendent with Dr. Yanni. And again, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity and honor to be able to serve on the school board and wish you all the best of luck.